Great. So far we've been introduced to classes and objects, and we've seen that properties are just like variables, but they exist within classes. Now we're going to look at methods. Now, if properties are just like variables, then methods are just like functions. And they really are exactly the same as functions, they just exist inside a class. So let's define one. Again, we need to use the public keyword because we're going to want to access this method. Again, we use the public keyword because we're going to want to access this method outside of the class. So we'll make it public. And then we use the word function to define our method. And I'm going to have a very simple function which I'm going to call say hi, like that. And then again we use our curly brackets to contain our function, and my function for the moment is going to do nothing but say hi. That's it. So the echo command displays those characters on the screen. So how do I access this particular function? Well, once again I need to create a new object. So this Ganon here will be our new baddie, and then if I want to run the function I just do exactly the same as I did before, but instead of using Ganon and then evilness, I'm going to use Ganon and then say hi, and because it's a function we use the open and close brackets there. And indeed we should have open and close brackets just after the function there too. Great, let's refresh that and see what it does. So that is a very, very simple function that just says hi. Now, just like with normal functions in PHP, you can get the function to return something. So I could change this to return hi, just like that. And then because we're echoing out the result here, that should have exactly the same result, because we've got return hi and then we're echoing the result there. So we can return things from our method just like we can with a normal PHP function. Okay, a couple of other things that you should be aware of when working with methods. One of them is how to actually get the value and do things with the properties that exist within the class. So what if, say, I wanted a method which just returned the evilness of this particular baddie? I can do that like this. As we saw in the previous video, I can just say, if I can spell it right, evilness, and then we get the 10 there. But what if I wanted to do that using a method? So let's say, let's change this method to get evilness. And what we can do here is, instead of returning hi as we did before, we can return this evilness. But because we're inside the class, we can use the this keyword. If you're familiar with JavaScript, you'll be familiar with the this keyword, but this essentially refers to this particular object. So in this case we're talking about Ganon, so it's going to return the evilness of Ganon. So the this keyword is a really handy way of referring to the particular object that you're dealing with when you call a particular function, or a particular method I should say. So let's see that now. So if we run the get evilness function, it should do exactly the same thing as before. 10. Great. Okay, so that worked great, but it didn't really do anything that we couldn't do before, because we could just display the evilness by getting the value of that property there. So let's have a new method, and we're going to call it make more evil. So what this is going to do is increment the evilness of the baddie. So they start off with an evilness of 10, and we want this function to increase that evilness by 1 and then output the new evilness. So we do that by using ++. So that will increase the evilness of this particular object by 1, and then, same as before, we'll return the new evilness. Okay, so let's run that method, make more evil. Great. So that's increased the evilness variable for this particular object, not for the class in general. For the general class, the evilness is still 10, but for this particular object, i.e. Ganon, the evilness is now 11. And we could do something like maybe make the evilness equal to 20 if we wanted to. So that's going to make it a lot more evil. If we have a look at that now, the result is that the evilness of this particular object is now 20. Great, so you've now covered the basics of object-oriented programming. In the next video, I'm going to set you a challenge, and all we're going to do is create 2 particular baddies and give them a certain level of evilness.